Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster 3. And yeah, what do you know? It's time for another top 10 list. And today's top 10 list is going to be my top 10 favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme films. Maybe I should maybe have made this video that early because I still have a few of his films unwatched that I haven't seen yet. I haven't seen Street Fighter, and I haven't seen Time Cop, uh, and I've not seen most of his newer stuff, like the very newest stuff. So, but anyway, this is going to be my personal opinion of my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme films. So yeah, let's begin right away. First up at number 10, we have the film that I watched most recently, and the film is called The Quest. Like, once again, with the goddamn lighting here is awful. The Quest, watched this just like a week ago or something. Um, and this is actually also directed by Jean-Claude Van Damme, and it's basically about him. He like kind of escapes like poverty in a way. In where is he? I'm not really sure which country it is, but he meets up with Roger Moore's character, who kind of saves him from like pirates, and then he decides to fight for their cause, and then he realizes that he also needs to avenge. Who did he? I think he needed to avenge someone that was in this tournament. So it's pretty much sort of like a tournament, like fight type film in general. But yeah, I mean, it's still an entertaining damn film. So I mean, it's still entertaining damn film. See what I did there? Oh, that's a terrible joke. Sorry. But anyway, the quest at number 10. So yeah, there we go. Then at number 9, we have the film Sudden Death, which I think is slightly underrated. I know it has some really stupid things thrown into it, but I think the main reason why I like this film so much is because this takes place like at a hockey rink, or like at a hockey arena or whatever. So, and I thought that was a really interesting and awesome place to have your action film in, because you don't see like films taking place in like hockey rinks or like hockey arenas in general. So I thought that was really the main reason why I like this movie so much. Jean-Claude Van Damme kind of looks a little bit tired in this one, so I mean his performance in this is not really the greatest, but the movie in general is good, and I think Power Spooth, who plays the bad guy in this, did a really great job as well. So yeah, Sudden Death at number 9. Now let's see here. Then at number, I have to double check here. At number 8, we have the film called Inferno. I think this is also known as Desert Heat or something. This I would say is one of the last really good Jean-Claude Van Damme films. I'm saying really good, and that's when I say really good, I pretty much mean if you compare it to all of the other Jean-Claude Van Damme films, because after this it just felt like it went downhill because this was released in 1999 or something. I remember really liking his character in this, and the music, or like the score, was really amazing as well. And also Danny Trejo shows up, and Danny Trejo is, I believe, one of the good guys in this one. I think he mostly plays bad guys in general, like Danny Trejo in general. So, but yeah, really nice to see him in this film as well. So, yeah, pretty damn good. I think this is slightly underrated as well. So yeah, Inferno, also known as Desert Heat, at number 8. And then at number 7 we have Lionheart, and I believe this is the one where he also faces. Is Bolo Young in this? I'm not too sure. I'm just gonna double check here on the back of the DVD. Brian Thompson is in this one. I think maybe he was one of the main bad guys in this. I'm not too sure. It was quite a while since I saw this, but I do remember that I really liked it. So, but anyway, Lionheart at number 7. And at number 6 we have Universal Soldier, with also with Dolph Lundgren. This got a few sequels, I believe, afterwards that were made for TV films, and then they made like an official sequel, which came out in like 99, 98, where Van Damme showed up again because he didn't show up in the made for TV films because I think it was replaced by Jeff Wincott, I believe. Um, but this one is a classic one. This is by what's his name? Roland Emmerich. Emmerich. I'm not really sure how you pronounce his name, but I think most people that like Jean-Claude Van Damme films in general might have already seen this one. But yeah, it's basically about one of these like cyborgs. I think he's supposed to be a cyborg. One of these cyborgs becomes like a good guy, which is Jean-Claude Van Damme, and Dolph Lundgren is like the bad guy in the film. So yeah, it doesn't start out as it doesn't start in that way because Jean-Claude Van Damme from the get-go, I think he is also considered like an evil cyborg, and then I think something happens with his brain or something, and then he turns good. So, but anyway, Universal Soldier at number 6. And then at number 5 we have Nowhere to Run, uh, and this one also has oh my god, what is his name? Joss Ackland in it, who I think is most famous for Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon, I think it was Lethal Weapon 3 he showed up in, or 2, I'm not really sure. It was a while since I saw those films. So he's like the main bad guy in this film, and he also is probably famous for appearing in the first, not first, but the 1 and 2, not 1 and 3 in the Mighty Ducks films. I keep mumbling on here, but even though, I mean, I think Jean-Claude Van Damme did a really good job in this, but I really liked Rosanna Arquette's performance in this. She kind of plays his love interest in this film. But yeah, I think she did a really amazing job in this one as well. So, which year did this come out? I think this might have been the late 90s as well. No, early 90s, sorry, 93. So, yeah, pretty damn entertaining. I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about this one in general, so go check this one out if you like Jean-Claude Van Damme. So, yeah. And then we have, at number 4, we have Death Warrant. And I think this is the one which takes place in prison, I believe. If I remember correctly, I think he plays like one of these. I think he's supposed to be like a cop or something, and then he goes like undercover in this like prison facility or something. And of course, there's a bunch of like really like dangerous people in there, so he has to fight for his life. I mean, kind of like most of the Jean-Claude Van Damme films, they are very similar to one another, so it seems like I'm repeating myself over and over again. But I remember this one having a really good soundtrack to it as well. And yeah, I think Patrick Kilpatrick, I believe that's the name of he's the main bad guy in this one. So yeah, you get that. So anyway, Death Warrant at number 4. Now I can see a whole lot of people screaming at me like, how could you put this at number 3? This is barely a Jean-Claude Van Damme film. Well, he does show up in it. He doesn't have that big of a role because this is one of his earliest films that he ever appeared in. But the film is called No Retreat, No Surrender. Which, I mean, this cover art is just so extremely misleading because it makes it look like Jean-Claude Van Damme is the main character in the film, but he is actually the bad guy in this one. And I'm not sure. I really like the main guy in the film. I'm not really sure what his what the character's name, no, what the actor's name is, but I like the characters in this one, and I think even though Jean-Claude Van Damme doesn't have a whole lot of things to do and he barely has any dialogue at all, it's still, I mean, I would just basically tell you that the film itself is really damn entertaining, even though Jean-Claude Van Damme doesn't show up very much. There's another film out there which is called Black Eagle, I believe, which he also played like a bad guy, I believe, and that was just absolutely awful. That's one of the worst Van Damme films I've ever seen. But this one is really entertaining, and just keep in mind Jean-Claude Van Damme is not the main character in the film, so if you know that from the get-go, I think you might enjoy this more, because I think most people get, oh, Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's not the main character in the film. Now I hate this film just because of that. So I mean, go into that and just don't expect him to have a whole lot of screen time. That's what I wanted to say. So yeah. So at number 2, I think there's like it's very tight between these two. The other one I prefer a little bit more because I'm gonna tell you why, but in a second. But at number 2 we have Bloodsport, and yeah, I completely lost track here. But this once again, I think Bolo Young is the main bad guy in this one. This one has awesome music in it because this is an 80s Van Damme film, and it's one of those tournaments that are pretty much like fight to the death type deal. At least it doesn't start off that way, but I think it just gets worse and worse throughout the entire tournament. So yeah, it's basically like you just wait for the final showdown between Bolo Young and Van Damme, basically. But yeah, Bloodsport at number 2. And what do you know? At number 1 we have none other than Kickboxer. Now the reason why I think this is much more interesting is because I like the locations a little bit more, the cinematography, kick-ass music in this one as well. And I know some people really hate this, but I really enjoy the scene when he's like dancing around this bar because it's just so absolutely cheesy and crazy. It's really hilarious. I think it's more hilarious than, even though it's a little bit embarrassing to watch, it's still entertaining as hell. Um, and his whole entire like training montage in this one as well is really great. I think there was a whole lot of, I think that's what lacked in Bloodsport. I don't think you got to see him have a whole lot of like training montages in that one than like in this one because uh, yeah, I really enjoy this one, and the main bad guy is really memorable as well. I have no idea why Van Damme decided not to show up in any of the Bloodsport sequels or any of the Kickboxer sequels. I have not seen any of the Bloodsport sequels yet, but I have seen most of the Kickboxer sequels. The second one being okay for being a sequel. The third one was like so bad it's good type of deal, and part four was just absolutely atrocious. I know there's a part five as well, and like a newer one which I think came out like a couple of years ago. But usually when it comes to it, this is just my personal opinion, but it just seems like after like the early 2000s, it just felt like Jean-Claude Van Damme just he didn't show up in a whole lot of really entertaining or interesting films in general. But that's just my personal opinion. Yeah, but anyway, Kickboxer, really entertaining, a really awesome film. Yeah, Kickboxer, number one. So that's my top 10 list of my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme films. Um, I'm not sure. I think there is a film that I have not mentioned that I think most people probably people probably say, why couldn't you add that film to the list? But it's just my personal opinion. I think it was Cyborg. I believe I think that was very forgettable in general. Black Eagle that I mentioned before was atrocious. I've not seen Double Impact, and I've not seen any like Time Cop or Street Fighter. I just basically go through his filmography here. Double Team is another one I need to watch, and Knockoff. There is a really hilariously bad one, The Order and The Rail. Both of those films came out in, I think, 2001 or 2002. And both those two films are so bad it's good. It's really entertaining because of how incredibly bad they are. So that's the reason why I didn't include them on the list, because to be fair, they are really bad. So yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. So yeah, that's my top 10 Jean-Claude Van Damme films. We'll see if I show. We'll see if I am going to make another top 10 list or not. It's probably going to be a top 10 women in prison films. I think that's going to be the next top 10 list. So, but yeah, anyway, that's it for this video. And yeah, keep your eyes open for the next video. And yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.